Hello and welcome back to another stream. I'm glad everything is working. That's usually a good surprise. I'm going to really quickly switch to here so that I can... Alright, we're good. So, we've got two topics to talk. It's going to be a shorter stream today. I'm still going to have a ranting segment like I normally do. I just don't put those in the title because I don't feel like putting those in the title. They're not a staple part of my stream right now. Maybe later they will be, but not right now. So, why don't Hans begin with drama? We will begin with Andrew Tate, and then work our way into Sneako, and then end with the ranting. So, without further ado, let's start this thing. Alright, so Andrew Tate was, well, as many know, released, but still under house arrest. As we can see here, Willie Mack, thank you, tweets out the Tates have been released from jail. Andrew Tate and his brother, who I can't remember, and placed under house arrest. Reason he wasn't before was because they feared he'd run. Let's see if he does, or if they are able to go to trial. His brother's name... Tristan, that's right. I always forget that one. I'll have to keep... Anyway, so right here we can see that Sky News reports that Andrew Tate was released from jail in Romania and placed under house arrest, his spokesperson says. The New York Times says that they won their 4th appeal. Now, I always had my suspicions of Andrew Tate's release. I kind of figured that it was going to happen at some point. Mainly due to the fact we never got the charges for it. The charges were something that everyone speculated on, but we never really knew. So, we can see that they won their 4th appeal. And here is Andrew Tate talking about... Andrew Tate speaking for the first time since being released, obviously.
I have no resentment in my heart for the country of Romania or for anybody else. I just believe in the truth.
It was political, so...
I believe in God, and I think that the fire of truth will eventually destroy all lies, and anybody who lies in a long enough time frame will feel the sting of regret, and I believe in it. Yeah, sure. I truly believe that justice will be served in the end. There is 0% chance of me being found guilty of something I have not done. I maintain my absolute innocence, and I think most people understand this, and I look forward to being home. So thank you very much, everybody.
What are your plans for the next days?
When I was in jail, I did 7,417 push-ups.
I make that.
Alright, so that was Andrew Tate being released. This is footage of him, the footage of him being released. I don't know why I do that. They do not. That was Tristan, and I think that was the one that just walked out. He looks significantly different. No, the one behind that guy. Okay, so that guy's not it. Alright. It doesn't look much different than what he did going out. But anyway, the last thing is, this is kind of a funny in my opinion. Andrew Tate got released on the same day the Matrix film did. As we can see here, The Matrix came out March 31st of 1999. And just to verify, March 31st, 1999. In case anyone didn't believe it, because it came from Aiden Ross. Anyway. You know, so what are my thoughts on this? I mean, I had suspicions for a while that Andrew Tate and his brother were probably going to be released sometime soon. Simply put, we never got the charges for it, and that's what always made me think that they're going to get released. There's no way they keep him longer than they can. you know, obviously they were in jail. I think 180 days is what it was. Let me go over here. Yeah, 180 days detention. This was kind of reported on back in January. It was like end of January, early February that they kind of got arrested. Which is kind of insane to think about, that it really has been that long. But yeah, you know, once we kind of got this idea of, oh, they're obviously going to get released because A, we never saw charges, and B, if I have to be completely honest, the speculation is what I think got a lot of people to think that they were going to go to jail. Now, I'm not an Andrew Tate fan at all. But even I was like, okay, this is a little bit strange. They're keeping him in jail on charges that no one has seen. And, you know, the speculation was always, oh, maybe it was human trafficking. Maybe it was something else. You know, but to me, I think that the biggest thing was, if it ever was the whatchamacallit, the human trafficking charges, why not just come out and say that? Why keep people guessing at what the charges were for as long as they did, unless they might not have even had charges to begin with? Which is where my speculation kind of went, was the Romanian government just kind of decided to arrest them because they could, and try and forge the charge, or try and come up with the charges as they went. They'd keep him the 180 days because it's easier than releasing them. It keeps him quiet and it keeps them to shut up about it. Now that he's released, they don't have to worry about that, because if he talks about it, they can use that in the case that they're probably still going to go against him. And if I had to guess, we're going to be seeing a lot more of that news in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. You know, we're going to be seeing that news. And that's why I think that they're getting released now. I mean, obviously, it's the end of the 180 days period. But at the same time, I mean, is it coincidence that they get released the day before April Fools? And now, without knowing anything else, miraculously, we're just given, you know, miraculously, they're just released. Like, no information is given. Nothing about their supposed charges was ever brought forth. It's possible we're seeing the Romanian government try and build a case, but because they can't really do that while he's in jail, maybe he'll say things while he's out of jail. That's my guess, at least. You know, and I'm more fascinated to hear, you know, it's like, I've heard criticisms of him and everything else, and whilst I agree with many of them, I do have to say that the ones that I really just can't get around with are like, oh, well, why don't you support him going to jail? I do. I just want to know why he's going to jail, rather than just accepting that someone I don't like is going to go to jail. You know, I've always been for, I love me a good court case to listen to. Oh, and oh boy, that would be an amazing one for them to kind of put out there. Could you imagine watching that one? The trial of Andrew Tate? That'd be fun. That's what I want to see. I'm more in it for the content, if you want to know the truth, because there is content to be had in a trial like that than anything else. You know, what do you got? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm genuinely curious to know, like, what do people really think of this? Do people, you know, did you buy him going to jail originally? Are you kind of upset that he didn't get... Are you kind of upset that he didn't go to court while he was in jail or get charged with anything? You know, I want to know. Because this is a case that I think opinions are, like, really fun to listen to. Especially because everyone's kind of on the same ground on this one. No one knows what the heck's going on. and we're kind of forced into this hole of trying to understand. Yeah, and I think that's all I've got for this video, so I'm not going to plug, but you know what to do. Alright, I will see you in the next one. Yeah, no, I never really bought the whole story in the first place. I think that a lot of that was media trying to oversell something. Which is why I really held my ground on, I want to see the charges. I want to know what the frig they're going to get him on. If anything at all. And clearly they just didn't have anything to get him on, or they would have kept him in jail. I mean, seriously, why release him at all then? I have an idea. They released him because if they kept him any longer, they knew people would start asking questions. And if they didn't, and if they released him too soon, he would use that against the Romanian government in a weird way, for a video. Alright. Let me go back over to here. Get the next thing going, because we got a bit to talk about. Oh. That's right.
It seems like you can...
They're videos. I forgot. Okay, so we'll start like this. All right. So Sneako Sneako decided to finally talk to Moist Critikal about everything, I guess. Yeah, I watched the interview at least 3 times, just to try and get some segments. So I've got a few different timestamps to go to that I've got saved, right here. So let me bring and I'll probably put the, I'll put the gameplay in the background, and I'm gonna turn down the game to very close to you can't hear it. So let me make sure that Opera is going. Okay, oh wow, we got the right one this time. Amazing. Alright. Whoops, that was the wrong thing. Anyway. So, this was Moist Critikal, Penguin Zero on YouTube, great guy. You can find him pretty much anywhere. Decided to talk to Sneako. And I thought it was kind of interesting, and these timestamps aren't in order, by the way. I just wanted to go through the ones that I thought were the most interesting in the order that I thought they were interesting. So I'm trying to remember. I think this is the one where they talk about Andrew Tate. So I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna listen and do things at the same time.
I would have liked to ask more on that, but I guess I'll do it now in post. Which it seems like you can recognize.
Do you believe that Andrew and Tristan Tate are innocent?
That I don't know. They could be, and I've said that from the start.
You don't have a belief on that?
Well, because I...
See, this is always the thing about Moist Critikal. He is extremely fair about his opinions, usually. And typically, he does a lot more on the joking side than he does really on the believing side. So, to me, I think this question is kind of just Sneako trying to figure out, where does Charlie really stand? Can I be genuine with him, or do I have to go back into the act?
I don't have the evidence. They've been charged twice with the human trafficking, but none of the evidence is public.
Okay, so I was kind of wrong on that one in the last video. I didn't know what they were charged with, or if we knew the charges. So apparently they were charged twice with human trafficking. So that's
look at all the victims and their allegations and how everything was exposed on WhatsApp. How they plan to make a Netflix movie out of this. All of that was online. I think.
But then,
see, if you cover current events, this is something you jump onto the pizza box, but you don't take the time to go and look at all the evidence that was debunked.
That's not true, though, because
why do you spend the narrative laughing at somebody falsely in prison, but you can't go and just look at a couple screenshots and see that as garbage? You're laughing at the pizza box putting 2 people in jail because of what you saw on Twitter. When I say the word faggot or I say a slur, it's just a funny word.
Awesome. I did not. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Oh well, I'm probably not gonna get struck for that. God damn it. I really should have figured that
There's
one
no
out.
consequences for that. Nobody goes to jail falsely.
I have looked at the evidence from both sides. I always do. I don't just go to these tribes and just assume everything on my side is right and everything on that side is wrong. I take information from all angles in order to find where I personally sit on this perspective, on this situation. So, for the Tate brothers, being charged twice with human trafficking, while there is some shady shit from the victims, there is still real merit to some of the things that people were talking about, such as something you talked about as well. The taking of the passports from some of the women and getting there under the guise that they would be able to date them. Those are very odd, very peculiar things. So it's not like it's just, oh, all of that's wrong and we have to disregard all of it because this is here. There is, on both sides here, evidence that makes it a very complicated case, which is why it's gone on for so long, right? It's not one where I know the answer. They could be innocent, they could be guilty. I do think it's weird they've now been charged twice. There is some very odd things there because that's not exactly a light thing to come after someone for. And there is things that you have talked about.
Do you think that it's wrong that people can go to jail for 4 months without any evidence of charges?
And even outside of the Tates, I have said that in this country, where you can go to jail on suspicion of things without ever being charged. It's a problem. Yes, it is a problem.
See, this is what's interesting to me and what Charlie is saying. What he's saying is like no real surprise to anyone. And I think most people would agree with like Charlie and what he's saying. It just seems like Sneako doesn't understand that Charlie isn't taking a side specifically. And this seems to be a problem amongst most people who fall in like these Andrew Tate camps. They don't understand like how can someone like not find him innocent but at the same time sit there and go there is evidence, because I think in my opinion I think Charlie's right. There's plenty of evidence to suggest he has done some shady shit, and it's interesting that he was charged twice and they couldn't get him on either one. It seems a little too good to be true, at least to me. I mean, but Sneako sounds so confused with like, I can't believe you don't think he's fully innocent. I can't believe. Whereas Charlie is just simply saying, there are good parts about this and there are bad parts. And right now, you know, it's bad that they held him in jail for something that no one can apparently confirm nor deny. And yet now all of a sudden it's like, oh, now they're just free and everything else. Granted, I think this was recorded before they knew he was free, but it's like, it's strange. It's strange to hear the way like Sneako is actually being so genuine when he's asking Charlie these questions. Dude, you can tell because usually when he's in a debate setting, he's completely like he's a complete moron and pretends like everyone else is stupid except him. So to me, this comes across as like the most genuine we're going to see him. Probably. Let's see, is there anything more in this clip?
I didn't see that video. I saw the video laughing about the pizza box putting him in jail. Did you make a video about that?
I think everyone laughed at the pizza box, Sneako, not just people in Charlie's camp or anti-Andrew Tate camps.
Yes, and I talked. Well, it's in that video where I say I don't know if he's guilty. I don't like if there's real victims here. Like I would never celebrate someone being a human trafficker because there's victims. I wouldn't celebrate him being a human trafficker. That means there are real victims there. Even though I disagree with like his Hustlers University and a lot of the dumb shit he says, I wouldn't want him to be a human trafficker. That means there are real victims being in terrible situations. I did say that, and I don't know if he's guilty. I don't know if he's innocent. Nobody does right now, except for them and whatever's going on in Romania. The joking about a pizza box is things I make about anything that has craziness around it. Like the Gwyneth Paltrow trial. There's so much silliness there that I talk about, but at the end of the day, I don't know who's innocent or guilty. I'm joking about the goofiness of things that have come up. Right?
See, and this so earlier, and I'm not sharing everything. Like, this video is super long, and personally, I think that I'm just finding the bits that I found to be the most interesting because I think that they're the most eye-opening. But I think it's interesting how Sneako represents this argument as like, oh, I can't believe you don't think that like he's fully innocent or this or that or the other. And the fact that like Charlie is sitting here going, oh, I look at it because it's kind of goofy. I mean, seriously, think about it. pizza boxes led to the arrest of someone. How can you not find that kind of funny, kind of goofy? And Sneako just seemingly has been lost in the joke. It's like he doesn't understand what the joke is. And he's just incapable of understanding that it's a joke. And is that it for this clip? I think it is.
Yeah, I gotta get going.
Now, he mentioned...
Yeah, okay, so that's the end of that clip. Which one is this?
Boxing fight.
Okay, so this is the Brandon... the only reason I'm doing the Brandon Buckingham one is because I think that it's kind of eye-opening. The mind of Sneako is really interesting in this conversation. Why he won't go and fight someone like Brandon Buckingham, who's more or less the actual like size requirement in order to fight him. If you don't know, like Charlie can't physically box Sneako, not because of like anything like that, but because of the height classes and the weight classes. I think Sneako is way taller than he is, and thus he can't actually fight him, and heavier as well. He's in like a completely separate ring of just all this crap. So to me, this kind of comes across as a more as a weirder segment. Not necessarily him being disingenuous, but very much in the guise of he's not really telling the truth, and he's more or less saying, I didn't want to fight you, you know, I didn't want to fight someone my own size because it would be too fair. You know, I don't think he's saying that. I genuinely think that Sneako knows very little about the boxing scene or stuff like that, and that's why he wanted to fight Charlie instead of Brandon.
But on the same side of that coin, you won't take Brandon Buckingham up on that boxing fight. The whole point was, I don't stand by my beliefs because I won't fight you for it. Well, with that perspective, why wouldn't you fight Brandon Buckingham when you feel so strongly about your beliefs and he says the same things I do? Wouldn't you want to prove that you stand...
The first fight that I want to take would be against somebody, one, who has more clout than me, two, I disagree with...
See, okay, I didn't hear that when I was listening to this originally. That's interesting. He wants to do it for clout. Huh. That's something interesting. But you know what? No, it's not. And I'll explain why. We basically knew Sneako was like this. We know that Sneako does a lot of the stuff he does for clicks and views. That's obviously a part of the whole Hustlers University with Andrew Tate. It's more they do it more because it's easy money than they do because it's truth. So that's interesting.
Ideologically, I don't disagree with him ideologically at all.
But he says the same things I say about you.
This person has been obsessed for a long time. He's suing me for emotional distress. Personally, I don't care about this person, and there's no...
He's suing you because you called him a rapist. Let's not beat around the bush here. Sneako called what's his face, Brandon Buckingham, a rapist. And you'll see that more as it goes in. Hey, Volt. You'll see this a lot more as Brandon, or not as Brandon, as Sneako talks about Brandon. He uses words like R word to describe it instead of just flat out saying like, oh, he threatened to rape. It's very strange, but I do think that this is him being honest. I think that this is all part of his game that he plays with his fans, where it's like, okay, if I don't say the word, then the other person's bad. The other person said it, not me. And we've seen that a lot of the time with, like, Destiny, where Destiny will beat around a word, he'll do things, and then, bam, he hit, and the second they say it, they go, okay, wait a minute, no, you just missed it, you implied something I didn't say at all. That's what I get from Sneako, except I don't think he knows how to do that quite well. Yeah.
no benefit for me to take my first fight with this person.
So then
if
your
I fought
beliefs.
somebody, I challenge.
So then
the reason I was banned on Twitter for challenging Hasanabi to a fight. One, because a lot of people want to see that. He's well known. He disagrees with me completely. There's a lot of tension for that fight. If I fought you, you have said a lot of things that are very negative about me. There's beef in the air, and you talk a lot about.
This point doesn't really make sense to me because it's like, why not? If you're gonna fight, why not fight someone that's actually? I guess he just. I don't understand the whole boxing thing. Maybe this is just something I don't get from his perspective, but it's like, why not fight the person? Why not fight just about anyone and everyone you want when you know you can't lose? No matter what you do, you're not going to lose this fight because you're going to use it in your videos either way. You're going to use it to, like, dunk on people no matter what. To me, this comes across as him being disingenuous because he doesn't really have a reason to not... Or he doesn't have a reason to not fight him, but he can't think of another good reason other than the lawsuit. I think that's the last part of that. Let's see, what was this one?
But I'm just trying to focus on like the big chunk topics that we tackled.
Oh, this is him talking about the gaming and sports. This is another, I don't have that segment. This is just Charlie talking about it. But what came across as weird to me with this was, and Charlie says this too. He finds everything that's not like his Hustlers his version of Hustlers University to be a waste of time and a waste of effort that you could be putting into improving yourself. I think that's what this clip is.
One of them that we did touch on quite a bit and got pretty passionate about is gaming, and like Sneako firmly believes that people that are gaming or watching sports are wasting their time, completely valueless. Entertainment like that has no value whatsoever. And I kept trying to point out that there's nothing wrong with entertainment, like watching sports, watching movies, watching streams, playing games. All of that's fine in moderation. But Sneako only views it through one lens, which is excess, obsession, addiction, where all they do is watch sports, play games, do this and that. And then, of course, it is very detrimental, and it is bad for overall health.
Yeah. And I feel like this is a problem in general with the way Sneako talks. He doesn't seem to understand. People can do, like, small amounts of things without going, like, full on into it. You know, I don't really do things like game all day. No, I, like, do schoolwork. I'll do other things. I like to do games because they're a little bit more fun when I've got the time. But I try and break up my day into different things. It seems like he talks about, like, the incel type, the ones that are like completely more focused on, you know, I can't believe I can't pick up a woman type of arguments, stuff like that, where that doesn't apply to everyone, but he puts like a one-size-fits-all perspective on it. And I think that's kind of where Sneako loses a lot of his audience, is he could be a completely bigger streamer than he is right now if he would learn that, like, not everything is done, you know, things are done in moderation. People don't just sit down and watch all these things all day long. Sometimes they get up and they go do things. Sometimes they just have it on in the background while they're at the gym or something like that. Something that he advocates for. He advocates for you to go to gyms and stuff like that. So it comes across as really strange to me that he talks about it like there's no other way of doing it other than his way.
Hell, I'm not going to bother showing clips from that because that one just really went in circles. I think
this is my only real criticism. He should have shown clips of that. He should have shown it going in circles just to demonstrate how Sneako really doesn't know how to have a conversation with people, and it's more about trying to sell a product than anything else.
There's just a fundamental disagreement there where Sneako believes anything that's entertainment driven is just not worth it, and time could always be spent better doing anything else. But then he puts his content on a pedestal that's an exception to his rule where, no, this content that I make is the one that's valuable. Everything else is worthless. This is the value. This, 4 hours, 5 hours of Rumble streaming and, you know, whatever's going on over there, that's a good use of time, and all the other streams like gaming and all that's terrible. So that got really muddy and messy, and there wasn't really any way we met somewhere and like had a perspective that made sense to each other, because his stream is just as much guilty of...
Yeah, and that's what never really made sense to me. Sneako talks like it's an absolute... You know, Sneako talks like, oh, it's an absolute waste of time. No, it's not. Some people use it to quell their day. You know, other people, I do admit, use gaming as more of a addiction rather than what it should be. But guess what? You're never going to be able to fix those kinds of people. Mainly because they don't want to be fixed. They want people to just sit there and... Or they just want to sit there and never really improve on anything that they're doing. And I think that is a serious problem, but it's one that society kind of perpetuates. No one really gets help unless they themselves seek out the improvement. Something that Sneako seemingly just doesn't understand. You know, not everybody can get help. Not everybody can be fixed in the same way that he was, or something like that.
Being a waste of time by his definition as...
I think that's the end of that clip. I'm going to move to this final clip, and that's
talking
really
about something, and you went into PR speak and salesman...
Oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Okay, I forgot about this one.
Happened there.
Gamer, or they meet somebody that they can go start a business with.
That the merch isn't $50 for a t-shirt, but regardless, what I want you to recognize is what happened there. I was talking...
it is.
Okay. It's still not, but with what just happened there is I was talking about something, and you went into PR speak and salesman mode to talk about your course, and you attributed something to me that I actually talk against. I actually have spoken many times about why college just isn't right for everybody. It's not. It simply isn't. I think college provides an invaluable social experience where for the first time in your life you're on your own, so you learn how to fend for yourself, you learn how to interact with roommates, strangers, so you get social skills, but college is not going to be a great fit for everyone, especially when it comes to certain academia positions, especially like in some art fields. I actually talk a lot about that, but you keep lumping me in with this perception of a gamer and these beliefs that you don't know anything about me on, and yet you still put me in there.
Then you should probably make them more clear.
I've
been a person watching your videos for years, and I had no idea about any of this.
So,
I've seen you gaming. I've seen you react to drama content. I didn't know that was your method to make people happy, which I think is a narrative.
See, this is where I get into like, okay, if you didn't understand like this is what makes some people happy, how come you don't understand this? You seemingly understand what makes some people happy. And this is where we get back into that whole, he clearly doesn't have any idea. He does too much of this lumping. He lumps people together. All guys must like to go to the gym because I like to go to the gym. All guys must do this because I like to do this. I've met people like this, and even they don't do it as badly as Sneako does in here. But it is worth noting that I do think that he has a problem, like, with trying to admit when he's wrong, when he doesn't understand this concept. And I think it's more and more obvious as time goes on that Sneako is seemingly afraid of falling into irrelevancy, but I think he's more afraid that he's doing it too quickly. Because in my opinion, I think that he'll fall into irrelevancy quickly if he doesn't update his way he does things from the current way to something else very quickly. You know, no one's gonna really, and I'm not saying this is this is more of a criticism. No one's really going to work with him. No one's really going to do anything with him because he's too one-sided. Oh, the Matrix. You know, he does like what Andrew Tate does. Oh, the Matrix is coming after me. Oh, this is coming after me. Twitter's trying to cancel me. You know, it just doesn't work, dude. And, you know, what happens when his class... What happens when people stop paying for his class? Because eventually people will. He's more afraid that people will walk away from his class than I really think that he's afraid of him ever losing relevancy. I think he's on a one-track way to losing relevancy, but that's just my opinion. I think that personally, he's going to lose a lot of people, especially that incel type, if he keeps saying, like, gaming's a waste of time. Gaming is not, you know, gaming's not what you think it is. He's going to lose more people that way than he is going to from cancel culture. Yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say about this, because there's just nothing really there to talk about. There's nothing really more in this.
Narrow way of answering that question about what you believe in and what your belief system is.
Because he talks over Charlie so much in this, and that's what I really hate on this. He talks over Charlie because it's like, oh my god, let Charlie get 2 words in longer than like 3 sentences long. It's just like, holy shit, dude, let him talk. Because I guarantee you, they don't disagree on anything short of like how they view like gaming or how they view sports. I think that in a good way, sports and gaming can help someone in relaxing. I've always said that, you know, there's some benefit in like sitting down and playing a game. I think that when guys get angry at games, it's kind of a therapy for some guys. Why? Because inevitably in their head, and I know no guy is willing to admit this, I have sure as shit admitted this before, and that's what's made me stop playing a lot of multiplayer games. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I've done that. And I just kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier. I just stopped. And I took a while, and I think I only recently gotten back into multiplayer games, and even then I don't do a lot of the multiplayer aspect. But it's like there is value in it. There is value in these things. And I just think that Sneako is so one-sided that he doesn't really understand, like, how could you say that there's value in a game when there isn't to him? And there's not. Not every guy, or every person, I should say, there's not value in gaming for every person in the world. Sometimes it's just to help from escape a reality. Sometimes it's genuinely something that they can find joy in. You know, and I think that's all I really want to say about this. This one went on way longer than I wanted it to. You know, let me know what you think, because I'm genuinely curious. Everyone has like a different view on Sneako and Andrew Tate, and I do. I want to know. In my opinion, I think both Sneako and Andrew Tate are pretty dumb, pretty stupid, but I think that there is some truth in what they say at times. You know, I just want to know what you think. All right. I'm going to end it there. Hope you enjoyed. And speaking of gaming, we're going to have a fun one, because that's going to be my rant topic. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on. That's not what I wanted. Okay, there we go. Now, I should... Let me... I'm going to go over into my... what do I want to do? Do I have any... I'm trying to see. What games do I have? I don't have anything really set up. Alright, so I'll just go into my build testing world. Alright, this works. Alright. Going back over to here, I'm going to quickly... So, I'm maybe you don't know, maybe you do, but I used to play a lot of Ark, or better yet, and it's one of my favorite games. Better yet, I take a lot of screenshots. If you don't know, I use those screenshots in most of my thumbnails on my channel. You can see them usually whenever I do something on my channel. They'll be in the back. They're like the background image. Why? Because they were just something easy, something that I could use that I already had on hand. I take a lot of screenshots. I do a lot of things in that game. It's kind of fun to me. It's a relaxing thing. But recently we got news, and this is going to go into my broader topic of, you know, is gaming dying out? You know, but recently we got news that Arc 2 would be delayed. No surprise there. It's wild card. We all knew it was going to. Anyone that follows the game knows that it was going to happen. All right. This is a title. I shit you not. Every time they give us a solid release, they either they go, oh well, you know, that solid release really wasn't exactly solid. I mean, maybe I can find it. Arc. Yeah. Let me see. Cause this was always kind of something funny. Where was it? Expansion. This. Nope, shut up. Alright. So, part 1 was December 2019. Part 2 was winter of 2020. So, obviously, like, a year apart from each other. You know, whatever else, right? I'm gonna do that. Wait, no, that was the teaser trailer. That wasn't the launch trailer. My bad. I didn't have this. I'm sorry. I didn't have this ready. This is kind of, like I said, this is my ranting. I don't really care. Shut up, Helena. HLNA, whatever you are. Okay. So, keep in mind, where is it? Right here. So, this is part 1. This was released February 25th of 2020. It got delayed from December to February. Oh, better yet, winter of 2020. It released in 2021. It's a pretty funny game all in all, but I digress. You know, but we got, oh, sorry. Let me go back to here. You know, we got that, but we also got this interesting news of Ark Survival Ascended, which is the Unreal Engine 5 graphics update. Well, actually, we had to pay for it. And that's left the community kind of split. And it's a fragment of my mind that's been kind of split for a while. And something that I just don't know whether I can agree on or not. You know, I've always been someone that has supported games like this, or that has supported this game for years. I don't know how much money I've synced into it, but it has been a frig ton of money over the years. And, you know, when I saw that we'd have to pay for this graphics thing, I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You guys said it was free. And that's when I kind of got angry. You know, days later, I've realized that this is probably the best thing that's going to happen to the game. Because they announced things like, oh, they're sunsetting official, which means that they're going to take offline all that other crap, or all the official crap, and they're going, really? Where is it? Oh, man. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Feature sunset. With the launch of Ark Survival Ascended, we will be ending official support for Primitive Plus, split screen, procedurally generated maps, thank God. These aspects of the game will not be ported to the new Unreal Engine 5. There was also something else, but they talked about how they're going to get rid of, like, official... Oh, here it is. Official servers. With the launch in August, we're going to take down all official servers. It's like, that's kind of sad, but I knew it was going to happen eventually. Especially in this game. You know, it's like, I'm sorry. Anyone that was kind of surprised by this, I think is a bit disingenuous. Alright? This is something that they actively said. They can't just port over any of the old crap. Because, oh wait, they had custom code that they added to the engine. They had custom things that everything was like really just on thin ice. And everyone knew that for so long. It just came in as a shocker that we'd have to pay, where is it? Up here. $50 plus $40 for both expansion passes. And this goes into my broader problem with gaming nowadays. You know, gaming now, it's like we have to pay so much in terms of gaming. Usually there is a $60 entry fee because, oh, wait a minute, games nowadays cost $60 to $70. A good example of this is like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'm sorry, that is a game that costs far too much money for a Pokemon title. A Pokemon title. On the 3DS that costs $30, they're now saying costs $60. There's just too much money that goes into these projects. But I digress. You know, and then on top of that, we go into the whole problem with DLC. You know, $20, I don't mind paying the obvious price of entry, but I'm paying for the same game. Am I not? I'm paying for content that's going to be in the game. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with adding new content or paying like high prices if it's something new. Take Elden Ring. I got into that and it's really fucking fun. And one of the best parts about Elden Ring was that we recently got announced with DLC. And I was like, oh my god, finally, some more content to the game. I 100%ed that game. It was really fun. And we got, let's see, do we have, I think this is going to be it. Right? No, obviously not, because I can't ever find anything on my first try. You know, we got the announcement of the Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC, and that's left people speculating. You know, obviously I don't have a problem paying whatever they're going to say for it, but, you know, I obviously know that's not going to be free. But, you know, when you're talking about games that have already been released, say, what's a recent game that was released? Oh, you know what? I'll use The Last of Us, Part 1. When you're paying $60 for a game like that, and it's a buggy nightmare from what I've heard, yeah, I think that people have every right to be upset. I think that people pay with their wallet, and that should tell you what the quality of the game should be. You know, and one of the biggest things, oh, well, then why not just buy indie games? Why not do that? You know, and the problem with that is they're getting to be about the same as well. An indie game now always is going to have bugs, and whether or not those are worked on in the future really is up to the developers of that game. Take, what's a recent indie game that I've played? God. Trying to think. I don't play a lot of games anymore. I just stopped. Take a game like, I guess Bendy and the Ink Machine would be a great example of that. You know, Bendy and the Dark Revival was, from what I heard, was kind of unplayable at launch, and that was not a AAA studio that made that. At least I don't think they were. I could be wrong. But it's like, at the price point of that game, which I think was like $30 or $40. Oh, Sons of the Forest. Sons of the Forest. Amazing example. I just thought of that one looking at my Steam page. Holy shit, that game was buggy as hell. And still is. That's what makes The Forest and Sons of the Forest so fun. Those games will forever be some of the most fun games I've had. But I digress back into my point. You know, but I'm sorry, I paid $40. Your game should at least have some bug fixes in it. And not just be a nightmare to play. Granted, the bugs in Sons of the Forest make the game so much more fun. The sledding glitch was amazing with the little book. But no, it's like, I'm sorry. When gamers are playing, or are paying, not playing, are paying these exuberant prices. I mean, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was $60 and almost unplayable at launch. I was lucky enough to be able to play it and kind of complete it in a good amount of time. But you know, now you've got issues like, oh, save files are getting corrupted, Nintendo is radio silent, no shocker there to anyone that knows Nintendo, and all these other things. And it's like, you get, I guess, and you know, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, there's criticism like, oh, you get what you pay for, you get all these. No, you pay for a game that is not supposed to be a buggy nightmare. You're supposed to be paying for a game that is relatively interesting and relatively fun. You know, color me surprised when the when the $60 game that I paid, and by the way, I didn't even pre-order Pokemon until I think like a week before the game launched. That was the first time in a long time. But it's like, color me surprised when the game launched. You basically couldn't go to certain areas of the game. You still can't. And it's like, I'm sorry. I paid $60 for a game that I can barely play. And you expect me to be kind about it? No, I think that any game developer would get dragged for this. Now, in Wildcard's defense for Arc, I think that this is more on the lines of Snail Games doing this, their publisher. I've seen rumors that they lied to their investors. I'm not saying that's for certain, but, you know, it's like, we've gotten recent examples of it. You know, it's like, I'm sorry, Cyberpunk 2077 got released in an absolutely unplayable state. And I think everyone was disappointed in that game. For good reason. Another $60 game that, simply put, is unplayable. That they're slowly, you know, and this is what I call the Bethesda way of doing things, where they release an unplayable game and then slowly patch it together over time. Fallout 76. Sorry, I don't know what that was all about. You know, it's like, I hear that Fallout 76 is kind of fun now. Am I going to buy it? No. Why? I don't like Fallout. But that's nothing to do with anything. That's just my personal preference in games. But, you know, it's like, why can't we get games anymore that are launched in a playable state? You know, my first introduction to gaming was basically through early access games. Granted, I was on console before I was on PC. I should make that distinguish. My first real PC game was early access, Ark Survival Evolved, Slime Rancher, all these like smaller games that people don't even remember anymore. TerraTech. No one remembers TerraTech. I guarantee you no one remembers TerraTech. You know, but now it's like but those games at least functioned at launch with bugs. You know, now we're getting games that barely can be played, barely can be done in any form, and I think that that's what's leading to this like demise in gaming. You know, we're seeing lower numbers. I look at the Steam charts constantly. You know, it's like games that should have like way more player base than they do are absolutely like shitting the bed. And it's like really interesting because you can see when I go back to here, you know, it's like your top games right now are like CSGO with 1 million. I mean, look at this drop off. You go from 1 million in CSGO to 500,000 to 100,000, and it keeps going down. It's like, I'm sorry, there are some, oh wait, you know, and this is your top records, obviously, 3 million, jeez. Elden Ring at damn near 1 million, Cyberpunk at damn near 1 million, Hogwarts Legacy at the very bottom. You know, and that's another problem, is it's just, I feel like I pay for a game that only lasts like 24 hours and then I stop playing it. I played Hogwarts Legacy. I thought it was kind of interesting. Did I finish it? Absolutely not. I couldn't get through it. It just kind of got boring, a mess of cutscenes and everything else that I just didn't want to sit down and watch right then and there. And I went to more interesting games that were more interesting to me. So it's like, I feel like that's one of the big problems in games right now, is just there's not enough, they're not meant to last anymore. And they're just designed to be quick games that make a quick buck. And now we're forced to pay the consequence of our actions. I mean, look at Call of Duty. That game comes out every year at $60. Plus whatever you decide to buy in-game if you buy it in-game. I mean, I spent far too much money in Black Ops Cold War, but that was my in fairness, that was my first real Call of Duty game that I've ever played. And I was very I actually liked that game. I liked the zombies mode. I know that a lot of people did, so. And I didn't really buy a ton. I bought things that I liked. You know, tracer packs. There was quite a few tracer packs. A few character packs that were just really interesting to me, mainly because of the tracer bundle that it came with. But, you know, it just goes back into a wider issue of, like, gaming in general has been on a decline. And in my opinion, I think a big fault of it is because they just don't care about games like they used to. I mean, you look back at it, and some of the biggest games of our, you know, some of the biggest games like Grand Theft Auto 5 still get DLC nowadays. More stuff than anything, and it's free. You don't have to pay to play that game. Granted, you might have to get a shark card or two at the start because it's almost impossible to get cash in that game early on. But once you do get that cash, it's pretty easy to maintain. I mean, there's 100,000 guides that tell you exactly how to do the Cayo Perico heist, and that game is still strong. I mean, it's on the list. Less than 100,000, but yeah, less than 100,000, but still fresh. It just comes across as really, I mean, it comes across as developers have been out of touch with gamers for a while. I mean, we obviously saw that more in the early stages of later game development. I mean, what was a recent game that really flopped hard? Oh god. Damn, I just can't, you know, obviously there are games like, I just can't think of any. My brain is like completely fried for some reason. But it's like, there's games out there that just aren't fun to play, and this goes back into the issue. Are they not fun to play, or do people not want to pay the entry fee of $60? You know, it says a lot about a person when they go and play a game like the Henry Stickmin collection, and that gets millions of views on YouTube. And the second you play a game like Hogwarts Legacy, you're barely getting any. You know, I'm trying to think. It's like, you know, it's just kind of interesting to me the way that, like, and I think that most people have this perspective of like, hey, you know, I'm paying you this exuberant amount of money. You know, and I've had more fun in a game like Phasmophobia, a multiplayer / solo experience than I've had in a lot of these multiplayer games for as long as they've been out. What does that tell you about your player base? You know, but I guess this goes back into my main concerns for Ark, where I fear that a lot of this is going to continue to happen, where Ark 2's around the corner. What's going to happen when DLC starts? You know, they're not going to be able to just sit back and remaster that game. That's not going to happen. If that happens, oh hell, there's going to be riots. That community, granted they'll still pay for it, but holy frig, man, they're going to burn the company to the ground. There's not going to be much left of it. Granted, I think that if they could go off on their own, they would. Because when I read this, and I'm going to go back to it, and that's how I'm going to finish it. All right. When I read this, I looked at this and I said, okay, you're mainly paying for Ark 2. They obviously never wanted it to be $40. That's their publisher, Snail Games, all right? That's Snail Games talking. Obviously, it was, you know, because this is talking about the bundle where you get Ark 2 and Ark Survival Ascended. Obviously, Survival Ascended was $10. And Ark 2, you're gonna pay an extra $40 to get Ark 2. But the reality is, you know, when I kept reading it, it's like, okay, this bundle will be available to purchase up till the end of August for up to 1 year after the bundle was released. And it will include Ark 2 and an Ark Survival Ascended, and additionally a month of the closed beta to Ark 2. Now, I can't wait to play that, because that's going to be kind of fun. Because obviously I'm going to pay for it. You know, and I see people all the time saying, like, oh my god, I'm not going to pay for this, I'm not going to pay for this. The second they start getting rid of servers, you're paying the money for it, trust me. Granted, I think that this was kind of scummy, where it's like, oh, you can only get Survival Ascended and Ark 2 together via the Ultimate Bundle. You know, that's kind of scummy. You should at least be selling it. $40, that's quite a bit of money already. You're paying an extra $10 for Ark 2 and the public, and the closed beta of it. It's like, I don't know. You know, but it's like, I don't know. I like taking my pictures. You can obviously see them here when I do this. These pictures are so much fun to just take. And with with Unreal Engine 5, oh my god, not only is my PC going to hate me, but I'm going to have so many cooler pictures. I'm going to have so many cooler things. I mean, maybe I can get them up. Let me see. I'm hoping I can, because that would be good. You know, it's just like, I'm sorry. Is this it? I think that's it. That was not it. Oh well. Can't get them all right. Anyway, you know, it's just like, I'm sorry. It's kind of scummy in general when you're looking at... When you're looking at the prices and everything else, like, I feel like this is going to be a problem with gaming moving forward. And some games are worth $60. I'm sorry. I think Elden Ring was totally worth the $60 I paid for it. I think that Sons of the Forest was worth the $40 I paid for it. I think that everything has been... You know, but games like Hogwarts Legacy, that should have been like a $40 game. Not a $60 AAA yada 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 crap. And I just think that, like, a lot of it is corporate greed, but at the same time, I think a lot of it is... Gamers are willing to pay just about anything, and this is the overall problem. Gamers are willing to pay just about anything because, guess what? When a company says something, they'll consume it. Whether you think you're going to or not, I think fighting back against publishers is great, and I think it can lead to some great ideas. But a boycott never works. Never. Look what they did to Hogwarts Legacy. It topped the selling record for this year by damn near double last year, I think, is what I read somewhere. I don't think it was double, but it was pretty high. You know, and that's really all I have to say about this. This was a bit of a longer thing, and I don't really care. I mean, you know, I just feel like people are going to be paying for these things until the end of time. If you want to tell people how you feel, it's better to do it over Twitter than it is to do it over anything else. Why? Because nothing is ever going to get done by not buying something, because someone else is obviously going to also buy it. You know, there's no point in boycotting. Why bother trying to boycott something that that's never going to work? You know, and I think with that being said, you know, put your voice on. If you've got an opinion that you really want to share, put it out there. Put your opinion out there on Twitter. Don't sit there and like try and call for a boycott, or sit there and say, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. Well, if you're not going to buy it, then you wouldn't have put 10,000 hours in a game. And with that being said, I think I'm going to catch everyone a little bit later. I've got things to do, places to be. So, peace. Stop recording and this.